Hello everybody and welcome to the very first video of my channel, Weather with Ryan, with me, Ryan. Given that it is the start of summer, I thought it would be a very topical video to start with beach safety and go over some of the hazards we see while at the beach and some of the ways we can stay safe. If you were to close your eyes and envision a beach, it may look something like the video that is playing in the background, and this is going to serve as our starting point for our discussion. So now we'll transition into the basics. And the very first thing is that the beach should be fun. However, there are some currents as well as some waves that we need to pay attention to while we're at the beach to make sure we stay safe. One of the available resources to us is the National Weather Service, or the NWS, and they actually provide beach forecasts to ensure that our beach trips do remain fun. And a lot of the information that we're going to be seeing throughout this video is going to be from their website on beach safety, which I'll link in the video description. And one of the things to always remember while at the beach is that if you want to stay safe, you need to respect the power of the ocean. And for that matter, if you're also going swimming in the Great Lakes or to a beach on a large lake, you should respect them as well. Before we get into the very details of it, there's this really good saying that is put out by the National Weather Service and NOAA, and it's stay dry when the waves are high. And this is good advice that if the waves are too high, you should not get in the water. And it gives you some examples of some of the reasons why this is good advice. One of them is about plunging waves, the other is about surging waves, and there are even some small waves. And we're actually going to talk about the different kinds of waves next. There are 4 kinds of beach waves that I'd like to talk about today, and the first is the spilling wave. The spilling wave are those typical beach waves that you may have envisioned as you had your eyes closed and you were picturing yourself on the beach. And these are very gradual waves that as they come in, the crest of the wave falls in front of them and it disperses as it gets closer to the shore. The second kind of wave are our plunging waves, and unlike the spilling waves, which are safe to swim in, plunging waves can be a lot more difficult if you're not an advanced swimmer, but these are the waves that are generally preferred by surfers. And these waves are a little bit taller than a spilling wave, and the crest of them breaks in front in very dramatic fashion, and these waves have much more vertical extent. And these are dangerous because they have the ability to hit you and knock you over, and you could potentially knock your head on the ocean floor or hurt your neck. So plunging waves can be somewhat dangerous. The third kind of wave that's also dangerous for swimming is the surging wave, and these can easily knock you over. And these are a little bit different from the plunging wave as that the crest never falls over. So instead you just see a very large little hill of water coming towards you, which can easily knock you over, and these often move very quickly, so you might not have time to prepare if one is coming for you. The fourth kind of wave are sneaker waves, and these are waves that surge further up the beach than expected. So you might be walking along the beach and the waves are ending pretty close to your feet but not quite touching it, and then one wave comes in and that goes way past where you're walking. This type of wave can be dangerous because this can bring in debris like floating logs, or it can catch you off balance or off guard if you're having a stroll down the beach and all of a sudden this wave is coming up towards you. So knowing which kind of wave is occurring on your beach trip is a good way at maintaining safety, where spilling waves are safe to swim in, while plunging waves and surging waves are a lot more dangerous to swim in, and sneaker waves potentially being dangerous if they are to arise. A good way to determine what kind of waves you're seeing at the beach is to watch them for 15 to 20 minutes to see what kind of waves you'll be dealing with before getting in the water. Another potential beach hazard that you might come across on top of waves are rip currents. Rip currents are how the water that's been brought to the shoreline by the waves are returned back out into the lake or into the ocean. And just as we have the saying, when the waves are high, stay dry, we also have the saying, break the grip of the rip. And to stay safe when rip currents are present, we want to know before we get in the water where they are and how we should escape them. We always want to be swimming with one or more people. That way there's always somebody around in case we do need help. And you have to remember that rip currents can form on calm, sunny days. It doesn't have to be a stormy day for a rip current to be present. And rip currents are common and can be found on most surf beaches. So any beach along an ocean or a large lake like the Great Lakes or the Gulf of Mexico. If you were standing on the beach and trying to identify these rip currents, what would you look for? Because rip currents can sometimes be very hard to spot. So the first thing we want to look for is an area of water that looks to be calm, surrounded by an area that has waves coming ashore. This calm area is most likely the rip current. The rip current also has a tendency to have slightly muddier water than the water around it, as it's picking up some of the sand and land debris as it goes back into the lake or the ocean. And although not all rip currents will follow this rule, most rip currents are perpendicular to the shoreline, or in other words, they go out straight from the coastline. So these are some ways that can be used to help you identify the presence of a rip current. If you do find yourself caught in a rip current, what should you do? So the first thing you should do is to relax and not panic. Rip currents will pull you away from the shoreline, but they cannot pull you under. And you don't want to try to swim against the current. Since rip currents can move anywhere from 1 foot per second to 8 feet per second, it's not likely that you're going to be able to outswim them. So instead, you want to swim out of the current and then to shore. So you want to ride with the rip current until it's not pushing you too much anymore, and then you want to swim perpendicular to the rip current, or you want to swim to the side of the rip current. You never want to swim with it. And if you can't escape, you should float or tread water until the current is less, and then swim towards the side. And then once you're out of the rip current, swim back to shore. And if you do need help, you can yell or wave for the assistance of a lifeguard. Now that we've talked about some of the potential beach hazards, I'd like to finish talking about the flags that some beaches might show you to warn you of the hazards you might experience. Now, as a caveat to this, not all beaches will have flags, but for the beaches that do, this will help you identify what each of these flags mean. And just as you wouldn't cross a road before looking both ways, you shouldn't enter the water before looking at the flags. So there are a few different kinds of flags, and the first we're going to talk about is the purple flag, and this is the dangerous marine life flag. If you see a purple flag, that could mean that there are jellyfish, stingrays, or some form of dangerous fish in the water, but you can still swim if you choose. A green flag means that it's low hazard, it's calm conditions, and you can go swimming with normal levels of caution. If you see a yellow flag, this refers to a medium hazard, and it means that there could be moderate surf or rip currents, and that you should swim with elevated caution. If you see a red flag, this means that there's a high hazard as you're swimming, so this could be strong rip currents or high surf and high waves, and swimming is not advised, but you still can go swimming if you so choose, and if you have the ability to swim at a higher level. The next two flags are really one flag, but you're either going to see one of them or two of them. If you see one red flag with a black square in the center, this refers to a tropical storm warning. So this means that a tropical storm is present off the coast somewhere and has the potential to impact your area. If you see a red flag with a box times 2, or 2 of these flags, this refers to a hurricane warning. A hurricane means that there are winds of 74 miles per hour or higher, sustained, and the water is closed to the public. You cannot go swimming if this flag is present. It is against the law to go swimming if you see both of these flags, unlike all of the other flags where you can swim at your own risk. And with that, that brings us to the end of our discussion of beach safety. If there are two things to remember at the end of this video, one is when the waves are high, stay dry, and the second is to break the grip of the rip. If you learned something from this video, or found it interesting, or are interested in more content about weather and things that are related to the weather in the Earth's atmosphere, consider liking this video and subscribing to my channel. I plan to put out a lot more videos going over some of the basics of weather and our atmosphere. And if you have an idea of a video you would like to see in the future, drop it down in the comments. And if you think I missed something here in this video, please also stick that in the comments. And until next time, keep looking at the sky.